o'clock. Call the Commissioners' Court to order. Quorum is present. All legal notices have been posted. This court is duly called. Can I get a motion to adjourn the court for the May term?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any unreadiness? All those in favor, let it be known by the usual sign of voting.
Aye.
Those who oppose, same sign. Chairs in the affirmative. Need a motion to open the court for the June term.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any unreadiness? All those in favor, let it be known by the usual sign of voting.
Aye.
Those who oppose, same sign. Chairs in the affirmative. Bailiff, will you please open the court?
All right.
This is my son.
That is for the Commissioners' Court now in session for the month of June 2016. With the Honorable the Honorable John Ronnie Price presiding. Please remain standing for the invocation.
Our invitation today will be a guest of Commissioner Dr. Teresa Daniels.
And good morning, and may we start this morning off in the right way. Thank you. I would like to welcome Dr. Paula Dobbs-Wiggins to give the invocation, but first would like to say just a couple of things. Paula Dobbs-Wiggins, MD, is a board-certified psychiatrist in private practice in Dallas, Texas, and an adjunct professor of the practice of pastoral care at Perkins School of Theology, Southern Methodist University. Throughout her career, Dr. Dobbs-Wiggins has worked to increase dialogue and collaboration between mental health and religious professionals. She believes clergy are in a unique position to help decrease stigma and promote understanding of mental illness and their treatment. She also has special interest in the mental health vulnerabilities of clergy and the importance of clergy self-care. A native of St. Louis, Missouri, Dr. Dobbs-Wiggins received her bachelor's degree in biology, cum laude, by the way, from Harvard College and her medical degree from Harvard Medical School. During her senior year of college, she responded to a call to Christian ministry and was licensed and later ordained by the Elliott Congregational Church of Roxbury, Massachusetts. Dr. Dobbs-Wiggins is a member of St. Luke Community United Methodist Church in Dallas, Texas, where she serves as an assistant pastor and directress of the Angel and Cherub choirs. She also serves on the board of managers of Parkland Health and Hospital System and board of the Pastoral Counseling Center. Dr. Dobbs-Wiggins is married to attorney Kevin B. Wiggins and is the proud mother of 4 young adult children, Lauren, Kyle, Paul, and Kevin. And I'm so proud to have you here to lead us in prayer.
Thank you. Thank you. May we pray? Oh God, we thank you for this day and the opportunity it affords each of us to live into your purpose for our lives, valuing freedom, justice, and healing for all. We invite your Spirit to permeate this meeting and enable each of us to rise above the issues that can so easily divide us. Issues of political party, social economic status, faith traditions, and ethnicities, and recognize the sacred worth of all people, including and perhaps most especially those with whom we may disagree. As the commissioners engage the business of this day, let them be guided by the ideal of seeking the welfare of the total community through the equitable distribution of resources, insisting on justice regardless of one's station in life, and affirming the importance of access to quality, safe, affordable, physical, and mental health care for all the citizens of Dallas County. Lord, help us to truly make this a Super Tuesday by not allowing our personal perspectives or agendas cause us to lose sight of the greater good. For it is in the spirit of justice, righteousness, and healing for all, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor. And you, Neil, in your resolution in mind, it's coming right behind the defense. I don't know why you put it in.
And I'll present the first resolution today for our employees of the month. Will the following employees please come forward? Thomas Lewis with Health and Human Services. Yawan Gatewood with Health and Human Services. Craig Merrick with Public Works. Yvonne Bunkley with the Tax Office. Larry Kitchens with Facilities. James Westfall with Information Technology. Danny Jefferson with the Treasurer. Lynn Wicker with Criminal Justice. Lauren Kelly with Criminal Justice. And Tyrone Hughes with Juvenile. And the resolution, and good morning, everyone. The resolution reads as follows. Whereas Dallas County employees are hardworking, dedicated, and play a vital role in achieving the goals and objectives set forth each year by the Commissioners Court, most employees perform above expectation and ensure that Dallas County continues to be a regional leader and a destination of choice for residents and businesses. And whereas the Dallas County Commissioners Court authorized the creation of the Employee Recognition Program in 2012 to encourage recognition of dedicated employees who represent the best and the brightest in our workforce, whereas the Dallas County Employee Recognition Program is consistent with the county's approved strategic plan, Vision 1.5, maintain a strong, motivated Dallas County workforce. Specifically, the Dallas County workforce is, in many ways, the face of the county. It must be knowledgeable, able to provide services for which people are hired, and dedicated to helping improve the system. These employees represent the exemplar employees Dallas County hopes to retain and recruit. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Dallas County Commissioners Court does hereby salute these selected employees for being selected as Employees of the Month in May 2016 for their respective departments, and offers best wishes for continued success at Dallas County, and I so move.
And I proudly second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. There's a... Thank you so much for your service.
We can't do it without you.
Anybody want to chew out their bosses or anything while they're here?
Say anything?
And did you say you wanted to?
No.
Okay.
Then I'll do it.
All right. And I know Senator West was coming for that too. Is Senator West here, by the way?
He's not here yet.
All right. So our next resolution will be presented by Commissioner Daniel.
Would those in
Hold on.
support of this please come forward? Thank you very much. This is related to the indigent criminal defense. Whereas the right to counsel.
Hold on, Ms. Richardson?
Of course,
Yeah.
of course. There, perfect. Whereas the right to counsel is guaranteed in both the United States Constitution and the Texas Constitution, and as such is not a discretionary program. And whereas the Texas Fair Defense Act of 2001 was developed by the Texas legislature to provide a necessary structure and guidance to local officials. And whereas the state of Texas is required to implement this right and provide legal counsel to indigent criminal defendants and fund the cost associated with the Texas Fair Defense Act of 2001. And whereas in the 15 years since the Fair Defense Act was passed, the state has never covered more than 20% of the costs of providing indigent criminal defense. And whereas the indigent defense is one of the major uncontrollable costs in a budget because there is no control over the number of defendants who must be represented at a level of quality that meets the minimum standards imposed by the law. And whereas Dallas County costs have increased more than 73%, from $16 million in 2001 to $28 million in 2015, with only 7% of this increased expense covered by the state, thereby shifting the burden of cost to the Dallas County taxpayers.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear those numbers again.
I'd like to repeat. Dallas County costs have increased more than 73% from $16 million in 2001 to $28 million in 2015, with only 7% of this increased expense covered by the state. Whereas with 17% of Texans falling below the poverty line, the 8th highest rank in the United States, the number of indigent criminal defendants is expected to keep growing. And whereas the state legislature has taken steps towards closing this funding gap, there is still much work to be done. Now therefore be it resolved that the Dallas County Commissioners Court asks the Texas legislature to fully fund the cost of indigent criminal defense throughout the state and in Dallas County as mandated by the Fair Defense Act of 2001, and I so move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Is there anything that
Just as a little bit of background, the Texas Indigent Defense Commission is making this a priority for the next session and has asked counties and other organizations to reach out. I think the numbers speak for themselves. The cost has skyrocketed and the state funding portion of that has stayed very, very small. So we'll be, supporting that effort as we move through the session.
So maybe criminal justice reform would include people actually having competent counsel that can be paid for their services, right?
Correct. Thank you, Commissioners, so much, Commissioner Daniel and Commissioners, for supporting this. I'd like to also mention the fact that we have a lot of criminal justice reform programs like drug courts and mental health courts, and there is a lot of encouragement on both sides of the aisle to get people out of prison and to get out of jail. But I would also mention that if we're going to get them out, we need the money for services to provide for them, housing and treatment and substance abuse treatment. So thank you so much for this from the Dallas County Public Defender's Office that handles 51% of the indigent defense cases. Last year alone, we handled 45,000 cases. Thank you for this, and we hope that the legislature listens to you.
let's do it.
And Ms. Richardson, the reason that I summoned you, first of all, because of what Dallas County has done in the leadership position in this area, number one. Mr. Reed, your work's cut out for you. I appreciate the resolution, but at the end of the day, we know what we're up against. And so I don't know why anything would change. And basically what that means is that the citizens of Dallas County are having to carry the weight. And so as we get into one of these presentations, I'm going to provide, it's one of the reasons I wanted the numbers repeated. We're having to carry the weight of what the state knows, whether it's in indigent defense, whether it's mental health. Our citizens are carrying the weight. So the resolution sounds good. I appreciate the indigent task force. I appreciate it making it their priority. But at the end of the day, history shows us kind of where we are.
And then again, I also want to thank, Mr. Stritch and Mr. Reed and Ms. Richardson for your hard work. Like Commissioner Price just said, the burden is on the taxpayers of Dallas County, but we need to keep fighting. We need to keep giving the numbers, like he said, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter which party you're in. It all comes to our wallets. We're all paying for it. And when it comes to that, I hope that the legislature, we have better and better data. We're doing more and more pre-trial and release. And as a matter of fact, today in the criminal justice part of the agenda, we have the Dallas County Criminal Justice Pre-Trial Release Unit formation, which I think is something that we continue to do in Dallas County to move forward in all these programs. So it couldn't happen without the three of you, and thank you all for your hard work.
Thank you so much. We're not done yet.
Commissioner Garcia.
Okay, great.
The next resolution is someone that I have the opportunity to work for the last 5 years. And I say many times here that as a public servant, you're blessed with the people that you get to know as part of this job and you get to work with. And one of them is someone that is always have a smile, always does his job and starts these meetings in the right pace. And that is Security Officer Basilio H. Lashley. And I'm going to ask him to come forward with his family, which is here. I just met his mom and part of his family. Would you all come to the podium as well? And be with Mr. Lashley,
Master Sergeant.
Master Sergeant.
But you'll take master.
Let's take it. Master. We don't get master much.
I always make everybody chief.
That's right.
That's the,
Make
this
him
is
chief.
way
Commissioner's
too.
Court can
That's right.
promote.
Yes.
We'll do it. He deserves it.
All them Army folks.
And thank you all for being
Marine, I'm
here.
Marine.
And the resolution reads as follows. Whereas the Dallas County Commissioner Court takes a special notice when an individual has given long and faithful service to Dallas County. And Security Officer Basilio H. Lashley was born in Panama where he attended Paraíso High School. And whereas he joined the United States Marine Corps in 1979 and served for almost 21 years, received many medals and commendations as First Sergeant, including 2 Navy Commendation Medals, the Navy Achievement Medal, Good Conduct Medal, Sea Service Ribbon, National Defense Medal, Antarctica Research Medal, Desert Shield Medal, and Desert Storm Medal. He participated in 8 deployments, including Iraq. And whereas Officer Lashley began his Dallas County career as a detention service officer in the Sheriff Department on December 2003. He then transferred to the Dallas County Security Department as a security officer from February 2005 to December 2006. And again from February 2011 to May 2016. Officer Lashley has served in the Security Department in positions ranging from sergeant to interim chief, and he completed the requirements of the United States Marine Corps Police Academy in August 2009 and worked as a Marine Corps police officer from 2009 to 2011 in Blount Island Command Marine Corps in Jacksonville, Florida. And whereas Basilio has 2 sons, Basilio Hay Lashley Jr., Staff Sergeant in the United States Army, and Gregory A. Lashley, Computer Engineer for Lifeguard Transportation. He enjoys running, working out, martial arts, and reading. And whereas he is a member of the Dallas Metroplex International Church in Dallas, Texas, and he is active in the congregation and attends church with his mother, here with us today, Miriam A. Lashley. And whereas Officer Lashley has served and protects Dallas County citizens and employees diligently for 8 years and has personified what it means to serve the community both for Dallas County and our country. Now therefore be resolved that the Dallas County Commissioners Court does hereby recognize and extend sincere appreciation to Security Officers Basilio H. Lashley for 8 years of faithful and dedicated service and further expresses best wishes on his retirement. And I so move.
Second.
Yeah, I got to start clapping for you. Let's do that real fast. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, motion carries unanimously. God bless you, man.
It's all right.
Well, I just want to say, today was the most nervous day I ever had, and I've been going that reading forever, but today was the day that I knew that God has to show me that to stay humble as long as I live. But I just want to thank the commissioner, the judge, and all these great commissioners who have taught me well, who have encouraged me, and all the directors and administrators, and really everybody from Dallas County. I had a great time here. When I come here was to party, working, and that's what I did. But I just want to let you know I got a great family too that supported me. Oh, and all my security officers. Oh, thank you, Jesus. But my mom, 88 years old, I take care of her. She's a blessing. She has given me a lot of encouragement. And my outstanding brother, even though me and him clashes a lot, but he's the Army guy. So he have taught me so much about the military, and he's a great encourager. Even though he doesn't know that, but he encouraged me a lot. And my outstanding sister, my sister-in-law, my brother, wife, she's a great woman. She encouraged me to put me in my place. My brother-in-law. And Sergeant Seward, my chief, you got a great chief. I can't complain. I'm telling you, this place has been a blessing. I don't know what else to say, but I'm going to tell you one thing. May God bless every one of you. Continue to do what you do, because we got a great department. I love security. I've been doing it for 30-something years. And I'm going to miss this place. I will always remember Dallas County. So thank you very much.
Sergeant, and while Dr. Garcia is coming, I don't know anybody in this county out of the 6,000 employees who's more of an encourager.
That's right.
And so he doesn't have a bad day. He does not have a bad day. And he always brings blessings with him. And so we just want to say you're going to be missed.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
you really will. And I know Dr. Garcia, she always has a real nice gift. I know this is the last thing you want to do.
For that. I will cherish that. Wow, that's amazing. So I'm going to put this in my I Love Me Wall room or something. Because I'm going to tell you, this is Mr. Price, Commissioner John Riley Price, you've been like a sergeant major to me, really. Whenever you talk, everybody kind of get a lot of it. I enjoy it. And the judge is cool. All of you have such great personality. It reminds me of the Marine Corps. I will miss this place. Secretary, you're doing a great job. This county has a lot of good potential. And I mean, just looking at you guys, you can see it. And all these great directors, my favorite young lady over there, you know. We used to run together. We run in it. And that's what I'm telling you. Take care of all of yourselves. Love people. And just do the best for the county. And I know God will provide for us. He always do. God is good. So thank you. Just, if that's okay.
It might be a nightmare someday.
No, it's a blessing. It's a blessing. Up here?
Yeah, you bet.
When you're in Panama over there under the sun, you think about
Oh,
it.
yeah, up there at the beach chilling with your lights on.
Absolutely.
Major victim, simplify.
I already did my hoorah already.
Thank you.
Hoorah!
Well, I love all of you guys. Keep up the good work. I mean, good stuff, people.
And Judge and Commissioners, I have the next resolution, and the family, along with the co-workers of the late Judge Phyllis Lister Brown, Senator West, there's a delegation, so I'd ask all of you to come forward, please. Judges, Judge Purdy, Senator, Judge Jones, there's just a ton of you. Commission, Judge Purdy. Judge,
Senators.
yeah, the senators here. Is that Judge Raj here?
Yes,
It is.
Judge Raj here? Judge. Wow. Yeah, come on forward to the mic. Come on. Commissioner Daniels and I had the blessing to represent this court along with 99% of the people, I think everybody you
I
see.
was there too.
Yeah, to be there. We were blessed by the representation from Dallas County and the resolutions that individually we had all put forward. But this is the record of history, and it would be only proper that history record where Judge Phyllis Lister Brown was in the hearts of this county. And so with that, it says, whereas Phyllis Lister Brown's star shone brightly as a native Texan who hailed from Terrell, Texas, and was a proud graduate of Bishop Don High School, the University of North Texas, and the Texas Southern School of Law, while pledging Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, a sisterhood whom she loved dearly. And whereas Phyllis Lister Brown assumed all of the rights, privileges, and responsibilities of her law degree by working as an attorney for the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation and Zales Corporation, as well as two other law firms and her own civil litigation practice before 1994 appointment to the City of Dallas Municipal Court Number 4. And whereas Judge Phyllis Lister Brown was elected to the 162nd Civil District Court on November 6, 2012, and a distinguished record as a jurist, which included being licensed by the Supreme Court of the United States, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit, the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Texas, and all courts of the state of Texas. And whereas Judge Phyllis Lister Brown has been active in numerous professional organizations, including memberships in the State Bar of Texas, the Dallas Bar Association, the J.L. Turner Legal Association, and the Texas Municipal Courts Association. And whereas Judge Phyllis Lister Brown is a founding board member of the University of North Texas School of Law and was active in a variety of social and civic organizations, including the Junior League of Dallas, Jack and Jill of America, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority, and Girl Scouts of America, and a litany of others. Therefore be it resolved that the Dallas County Commissioners Court does hereby, with great sadness, reflect on the life, legacy, and liberated spirit that was part and parcel of Judge Phyllis Lister Brown, and on the dedicated work that she admirably performed for the sake of the citizens of Dallas County. Be it further resolved that we as a community emulate the strength, the courage, and determination that we witnessed in Judge Phyllis Lister Brown, and wholly pledge our prayers and support to her daughter, Corey, and family, whom she loved loudly and lavishly in our midst. And I so move.
And I second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Pull the mic. Come forward. You can just pull the mic up. Introduce yourself for the record.
My name is Frederick Lister. I am Phyllis's uncle. We are, the Lister family and the Brown family are very thankful to the Commissioner's Court for this resolution and ask you to keep us in your prayers.
Judge Purdy.
I would just like to add to all of the great things that Judge Brown has done for this county and this city. She was an electrifying judge on that bench, and we just thank you for recognizing the great work that she has done and the great work that is left to be undone.
For the
So
record,
thank you.
Judge, introduce yourself.
I am Associate Judge Monica McCoy Purdy.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. And Judge Parker, you just represented Senator. I'm gonna get
I am Judge Tanya Parker. I am the presiding judge for the Civil District Court. I want to thank you all for recognizing our colleague and our friend. Of course, our hearts are broken over the loss of her in both of those capacities, but we are so grateful to have walked with her during the time that we did, and we carry her spirit and her memory with us. It fuels us to rededicate ourselves to the work that she loved so much that we get the honor and the privilege of continuing to do. Thank you all.
Senator and Judge Parker, both you and Judge Jones, both of you, no disrespect to Reverend Brian Carter, but you believe me, we had 3 or 4 eulogies that day, and you did us well. Thank you, Senator.
First of all, good morning to each and every one of you, and I commend the Commissioner's Court for doing this resolution. I think that all of us knew Phyllis Lister Brown, the person. We knew Phyllis Lister, and then we knew Phyllis Lister Brown, and needless to say, we know Corey. You know, when I think of Phyllis, I think of a person that always had her ear to the ground and kind of knew, or thought at least she knew, where everything was going. But the fact is that we're celebrating a person, a citizen of Dallas County, that was an extraordinary person, which has already been said. And I think that, as the Commissioner put it, this will be a record that will live in perpetuity in terms of all of the things that she did as a public servant. And I'm hoping that we continuously remember her contribution, not only to the judiciary, but also to Dallas County. And so, Fred, needless to say, this is another expression of exactly how we felt about your niece, and the family should know that. And I commend the Commissioner's Court for this action, and needless to say, wish each and every one of you well as we continue to pray for the strength and also the development of Corey, that all of us need to make certain we got to put our arms around as she grows up to be the person that her mother would want her to be.
And the rest of the judges, I know a lot of you changed your schedules to be here today. Judge Lewis, Judge Mulberg. I don't think I tell my staff for the past 10 years, and my administrator reminds me, for the past 10 years, I've probably attend 2 to 3, as a lot of you do, transitions a week, funerals a week. I don't recall one where I've seen every judge and or attorney in Dallas that was present at Judge Lister's homegoing, and Mr. Brown, and she was just, I mean, it really was really heartfelt, and still haven't had a chance to reach out to Judge Murphy, but apparently you had to be there to know what I'm talking about with Judge Murphy. She took some, I guess what y'all call it, judicial Privilege. She took some privilege in the church. She took some privilege. In fact, a couple of the judges behind me said, "Did she say that?" Yeah, she said that. But anyway, are there any rest of you would have any comment? Judge Raggio, it's good to see you.
Judge Moyer, Judge Hall.
Judge, Commissioners, I believe Judge Parker, my colleague, summed up our feelings, and of course, we have lost a fundamental inspiration in our ranks, all of us to a person respected and loved, Judge Lister Brown. I am here as representative of the district courts of Dallas County, the 39 district courts, and I do want to acknowledge that in addition to Judge Parker, who represents the civil district courts, I have to my left Judge Gracie Lewis, who is the presiding judge of the criminal district courts. And thank you, Judge and Commissioners, for this resolution, for this fine friend.
Nothing else. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for being here.
Yes.
Before we get to the next matters, which I guess is our presentations, I'd like to take a moment of personal privilege. Congratulations to the winners in the last election, including our own John Ames. I believe that occurred after our last meeting, and so John, we congratulate you and look forward to a successful collaboration.
Tracy Gully's here too. I think I saw.
Oh, and yeah, I did not see her.
I mean,
Constable Gully, are you here?
Excellent.
All right. Are those the only two county?
Yeah.
Okay. And on the issue of elections, I want to remind everyone that today is the second day of early vote for the municipal elections that are occurring for runoff elections in various cities, the Dallas County Community College District, the Dallas Independent School District. That election day is June the 18th, but early vote runs for a few more days, so it's easy to vote early at one of the locations. Encourage people to do that. Lastly, I want to introduce on his first day here in Dallas County our new Homeland Security and Emergency Management Planning Chief, Japhet Cruz. Japhet, thank you for joining us. After an exhaustive, and I mean exhaustive search, we found a super qualified person with a career in this very field at FEMA, and we're so pleased to have him here with the county. All right.
And also, Judge, I want to introduce today Ms. Kenia Sanchez. Ms. Sanchez, I know you're here. There you go. Could you please stand up? You know, she's the new intern with the Correctional Department. She is graduated from Barefoot Sanders Law Magnet School. And of course, he is pursuing right now Bachelor in Science in Criminal Justice. And she will be graduating in May 2017. So she wanted to learn more about, you know, the real criminal justice story here in Dallas County, and we're proud that she decided to come, you know, and join us. So thank you, Ms. Sanchez, for being here. I hope you enjoy, you know, your internship. Thank you, Judge. Thank you, colleagues.
All right, our next items are presentation. Commissioner Price requested two matters be placed on. As are our rules, those matters, if any commissioner requests, will be placed on. The first matter is the issue of Sand Branch. Commissioner?
The discussion of Sand Branch is to really kind of place the court, what I consider to be on notice with regards to forming a plan for relocation efforts for the 40-plus households or the 88 individuals located in that vicinity. There have been a number of conversations going back and forth with regards to it. I think that it would be prudent, given the history and what we've been before, that this court at least exercise or put in place a plan whereby should the residents, first of all, want to take advantage of it, that plan is in place. And then number two, should the court, majority of the court decide that in their arsenal that it is in the best interest of the citizenry that we do something else, that there is a plan in place. So I'm today asking Rick Lesberg and majority of the court to take and to put forth a relocation plan with regards to the residents that are there in Sand Branch, similar to what we did before with regards to relocation efforts. And that effort was an effort that was undertaken after FEMA told us that we were in violation of the floodplain regulations. Mr. Lesberg, you want to come forward? Once they gave us advice, we embarked upon an effort to bring water to this community 15 years ago. And at that particular time, we were placed on notice by FEMA that they were in the floodplain, which we knew, but that we had citizens in Sand Branch that were in violation of the floodplain regulations. Therefore, we were advised under the regs to cure. Is that not correct?
That is correct.
And based on that, the county moved forward with a relocation plan to cure, with monies both from CBDG as well as, I think, Water Development Board.
Correct.
That is correct. And so, but that plan, as we have retrieved it from the archives and reviewed it, appears to be a plan that will be much different because everyone there now is, quote, grandfathered with regards to that particular event.
Yes, it's envisioned that any new plan would be different. The client group, the population base is different. As you mentioned, legally, the folks that live there can stay there indefinitely as long as they comply with the existing rules. Previously, in 2004, for instance, that was not the case. About half the community at that time did not have grandfather status, and they were required to move or elevate their structures, which was not really physically feasible at that time.
So what I'm saying to the court today, I want staff to at least prepare a relocation plan with regards to that community.
We will.
Well, before you do, I'd like to get a few things in the record. I see, if everyone could just raise your hand. I didn't ask you to come, but I'm glad you're here. Our federal partners, if you're a federal partner here, could you raise your hand? I see Alan Lambrat with USDA. I see TCQ, Tony Walker, and EPA and FEMA. And thank y'all for all you're doing for the people of Sand Branch and for Dallas County. I want the court to be aware of a disconnect between our federal partners and our community partners, and a desire to relocate people. The community has made it very clear to all of us at every meeting, at the larger meetings and at the smaller meetings, they are not desiring of moving. And a concern, as Commissioner Price laid out today, is that the plan would be in place for those who voluntarily want to move, and yet we've heard from the 44 homeowners that none of them voluntarily want to move. And it would also be in place should the county choose to find some health and safety concern, which I would venture to guess you could find if you look in almost any underserved poor person's home or neighborhood, to potentially take action to involuntarily relocate people. And this is a concern not only to the people who live there, but to our state and federal partners. And I want us to be aware of that moving forward. Because yesterday we had about an hour and a half long phone call. We had monthly follow-ups with the partners. On that call were Commissioner Price, myself, several members of county staff, EPA, FEMA, Region 6, TCQ, USDA, Communities Unlimited. That was strictly a government call. We have open meetings too where members of the community come. But at that call, we discussed several issues. We discussed tires. We discussed drums, the contents of which are unknown. We discussed livestock, which are roaming freely on property where they don't have a lease, apparently. We discussed carcasses of dead livestock. We discussed enforcement issues. We discussed home repair issues and population scarcity and the fact that there's only 44 homes. Is it really economically viable to use the federal resources to help underserved rural communities get water and repairs when it's that scarce? And that conversation lasted about an hour and a half. At the end of that conversation, and I think this is an important thing for us to all know, I asked, after Commissioner Price and some staff laid out every concern that we have as a county about why this may not work, I asked our federal partners, is there any one of you who has a concern that your plans to help the people of Sand Branch will not be successful because of these impediments that we've discussed? And no one raised a concern from our federal, and I didn't ask our state partners, but Tony didn't raise a concern either. I think I just said federal on the call. So no one raised that concern. So the disconnect is at the county we are working, or staff is working on an idea that the federal partners in the community groups who are currently not asking the county to do much or to spend money on bringing water to the area or home repairs, that they will be unsuccessful in their efforts to improve their community with the help of the federal agencies that we all pay tax dollars to, that work on these very issues of rural small neighborhoods where it would never be economically viable to bring them water and to do the things that need to be done. But because this is America and we take care of the least of these and people in distressed areas as well as people in newer neighborhoods, those funds are there and have been used in other places in the United States and here in Texas, for instance, in Las Colonias and others. So our federal partners are on a path and our state partners are on a path where they believe that they can help the people. A concern, there seems to be on the part of the community a disconnect and an adversarial relationship between people inside the county and people outside the county as we move forward. Yesterday, one of the comments that Commissioner Price that used, and I don't think we mean this, but I think it leads to the fear in the community. I said, well, is this a completely voluntary plan and not one that would lead to forcibly dispossessing these people from their homes? And you said the plan would be there if the county wanted to use any of the other weapons in their arsenal, and I think that's just a term of art.
It wasn't weapons, it was tools.
Tools in their arsenal. I'm sorry, tools in their arsenal. But you can see how the concern is there. So I'd suggest that the court do two things before we come up with a plan. These are our federal partners. We don't need to have a long discussion here today, but for anyone who hasn't had the opportunity to talk to our federal partners about how they pay for this, how they do this, what they're trying to do, why this is doable, please have those discussions. And can we confirm as a court any plans to allow people an opportunity to look at relocation are purely voluntary and will never be used as a tool to dispossess these homeowners from this freedman neighborhood that has been there since after the end of the Civil War. And these are homeowners. These aren't squatters. These are people who the home has passed. They may not have all the paperwork because they're poor. A lot of them are poor. Average income there is $721 a month, and the neighborhood is older. The population is older than most neighborhoods, but these are the homeowners who live in those homes that were passed down to their families. So could we reaffirm today as a court, we will not use these tools to involuntarily move people from their locations?
No. And my position is still, I represent the area. I've been representing the area, and my position is still the same. We need to at least promulgate a plan going forward. That is our responsibility. There's nothing that gives any of our so-called partners, anything. They bring, if they want to bring and throw money at it, that's fine. I think it's our responsibility to be proactive and at least have a plan in those.
Well, and I agree that you do represent the area, as do I. Our districts are in the area, but I believe the other three commissioners in this entire court represents the entire county, and I'd like to hear from the members of the commissioners' court if there is a will from this court to either state that they want to use this plan as a potential tool to forcibly remove people from their homes, or that they will not use this plan. Because what I'm hearing, you and I have a disagreement on that. I'm saying I would never use a plan to offer someone a voluntary option to get their home and make them move. And you're saying you're not willing to rule that out today. I'm wondering where everyone else is on that.
And I don't think you should put everybody else in that position. I think staff should be.
Get a plan.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's see the plan first.
This Tarzan mentality I've told you about. The thing is just we're putting together a plan. We'll make the decision later on. It's a plan.
I think it never hurts, the federal partners are here, they're willing to help, we welcome their help. However, I agree with Commissioner Price and Commissioner Daniels. Let's have up their options. We've dealt, you and I have dealt with the federal government before, with other cases, and sometimes they come through, and sometimes we all know they don't. And we appreciate their help. I want to leave that very clearly. But, it never hurts for the county to be prepared for the next step in case the timeline, as far as I was told when I met with them, was that by the end of this year, by November or December of this year, they should have some solid funding and a solid timeline of action. But what happens if by November or December we don't have that solid action? I totally agree with Commissioner Price that, hey, what happens if that happens? Let's just be prepared. Let's be in advance. We have the staff ready to work on this, and why not having that plan?
It has been noted, too, this is not a new problem. This is not the first time that Dallas County has addressed this situation in a variety of ways. So I would say let's take stock of where we are today with the people who are there today, with the status of the housing and water that is there today, and see what options we do have to go forward.
And my question is not whether or not we should have options. My question is simply, is there a will on the part of the majority of this body to use whatever options? Let's say the plan offers people $100,000 to move and they don't want to move. Is there a will on this court to dispossess people and involuntarily move them? Or is this a plan that we're coming up with to give the neighborhood options? I think that's an important thing for the community to know.
Let's see the plan first.
Yeah,
Exactly.
let's
You can
see the
understand
options, Judge. I mean, what you
Well-
call relocation might be an option for other people.
Well, and for the community to know, if there were a mechanism for counties to dispossess people of their land,
We're not dispossessing anybody.
against,
With all due respect.
I mean,
You know, this Captain Saber, homie. You know, the thing
You're
is,
the only one talking about dispossessing.
yeah, that's always he.
Well,
Somebody keep
I'm asking, I don't know how I can be more clear, perhaps I'm not being clear, but,
How can we be more clear?
Yeah.
well, then is there, maybe I'm missing it, is there an agreement that we won't use a plan to move people against their will from their homes?
Let us look at the plan first. Let us-
Okay, so at this point, today, there's not that consensus then. I think that's the answer.
that
Yes,
is
for a plan.
called
Let's get
an
the plan.
option.
And let me please encourage those of you who have not attended the meetings to talk to our federal partners to be up to date, because the information that they are giving and the information that county staff are giving are diametrically opposed to one another.
With all due respect too, sir, I think that each one sitting here has an understanding what our responsibilities are to make informed decisions.
And we have
We
met,
we
and our
have
staff have
visited,
met.
we have talked, we have read, we have listened, and we will continue to do that, and then we'll make an informed decision. So I really appreciate what you're saying here, but also respect the rest of us.
Certainly, I mean no disrespect to any of you. I simply point out we have these federal partners who are very engaged and very much would like you to know what their thoughts are.
And we do. I have talked to some of the representatives. My staff have gone to some of the meetings as well. We have toured the area. Judge, please. I mean, I want you to know that your colleagues do their homework, that we do, appreciate, like I already say, all the federal partners' help. However, it never hurts, like the Boy Scout says, to be prepared and leave the place better than you find it. So, with that being said, with all due respect, Judge, I would like, and there's a commissioner that is asking for a plan, I will definitely support your vision and his.
A plan.
A plan.
Thank you.
And our next presentation is to discuss tax rates.
About the same, talking about being dispossessed. I don't know, while I had already placed this on the agenda, based on what the judge had said the last time, I understand that Commissioner Cantrell apparently has a presentation.
Oh, no, I'm going to wait and see.
Okay, that's fine.
Well, let me say this.
Oh, hey, I'm fine. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, both of it. I guess what bothers me is that, kind of like the form of discussion, I'm hearing, talking to partners, other taxing jurisdictions. Well, some of us are talking to those taxing jurisdictions as well. And I see no will on the part of those taxing jurisdictions, because values in this county, which we have, that's the reason PVTO did what they did with a central appraisal district, so that we'll all be operating on the same scale. Basically, where Dallas County is, and the so-called 7.5% versus 9%, it's just, it's all talking about this, that's almost unimaginable. When we do the calculations based on, and again, you'll have a chance to say something about it, but we do the calculations based on what you have put forth in terms of so-called taxes, the difference between the 7.5% versus the 9 to 12% that we may be experiencing as you're calling a windfall, is just, it makes no sense given where Dallas County is. Dallas County still has one of the lowest tax rates in the county. In 2014, in the state, I'm sorry, thank you. In 2014, we were number 6. In 2015, and Dallas County has the 6th lowest county property tax rate in the state, and we're the 2nd lowest of the urban counties, only preceded by Collin. We have a maximum optional homestead of 20%, not less than $5,000. When you look at that with those same 6 entities, Dallas County is number 2. When you look at, we're the 2nd lowest county property tax burden in the state. And while most of you weren't here, just Commissioner Cantrell and I was the only descending commissioner in a 4-to-1 vote, we implemented a tax freeze in Dallas County. None of our other partners have done that. And as a result of Dallas County engaging the tax freeze, which basically provides for people who are 65 of years of age, as well as a $69,000 homestead exemption over 65. So when you look at what has happened to us, that hasn't happened to any other entity, and this is ad valorem taxes, and I know fines and fees, but filings are down in the criminal courts, 1/3. Filings are down in the civil court, 1/3. And so basically all we have is ad valorem taxes. And when you look at that, at the end of the day, what we're basically seeing is that that tax freeze that Dallas County implemented has cost us $9 million. Every 1% is $3 million. Correct, Ron?
Correct.
Cost us $9 million. Nobody else has had to deal with this. Now, when we also put this tax proposal forward, I guess nobody's thought about Parkland. Nobody's thought about business and commercial value. So at the end of the day, the proposition, as I've analyzed it, going forward, would save us about $4 and some odd cents. Now that's on a average home of what, 185,000?
Yes, after homestead exemption.
After homestead exemption, $185,000. I guess what bothers me about all of this is that, you know, it's that 60-second hero and lifetime fool again. Problem that bothers me is that Dallas County has said in previous budget session, and that's the reason I want to have a full-blown budget session. We'll either have it one way or the other. Studies show that we are on average 10% below market by the Commissioner's Court, and in order to bring Dallas County back to market, it will cost us $30 million. That's on our workforce compensation. Decreasing the tax rate will impact the amount of funds available for our IT projects, which we've already underfunded. Decreasing the tax rate will impact the amount of funds available for building improvements and deferred maintenance in an area that we are now focusing on. And there's been some discussion about starter funds to allow nonprofit partners in the mental health. We just talked about that whole issue of indigent defense, but as we know, at least 40% of the Dallas County Jail is mentally challenged, and that's and so that is a concern. There's also need to replace the AV system at Frank Crowley at a cost of about $2 million. We got another $500,000 in funding for vehicles because we are behind on what we call, I think we put a number at $150,000 for replacement vehicles, and we are long past that, which gets into some safety concern. So when you talk about all of that, the so-called $4.80 or $5 on the Dallas County side, not counting Parkland, what you basically are looking at is that with 866,000 parcels, you're basically leaving $4.5 million on the table. And when we look at Dallas County, I mean, we work on the margins. We don't have sales taxes like the city of Dallas. We don't have other income or fees like our city partners. And I did talk to some people in the school district, and there is no willingness to even talk about this. And so we're the only one, the parade's back there, and we're out in front, drum majoring, and we have probably been the most frugal of all of the entities in terms of how we're going forward. So either we're going to treat our workforce who, if you look at our turnover rate, I think, Mr. Graham, did you tell me countywide here a few months ago we were at about, 15%? Yes. 15%. Sheriff's Department, our largest department, is about 13%. 13%. We've got a workforce that a Hayes study that this court tasked says that, we're behind the market. And based on being behind the market, we're not trying to catch up this year, but there is a proposition on the table. And any decrease in this so-called 7.5%, and the difference between that spread and the so-called 9 to 12% spread that I did the calculations on, gives us some challenge. Now, I know there may be some of my colleagues, and I won't venture to guess, who may want to talk about, the effective rate. Well, the effective rate basically does the same thing to us. I mean, there's not much difference between the effective rate.
You talking about me?
Oh, no, I didn't call it a name. If you talk about the effective rate, I mean, we're basically saying the same thing. But I'm telling you, keep in mind, we know what Parkland went through last year. We know where Parkland is. This impacts Parkland. And while we laud it under the concern, again, for the residents and the homeowners, and we understand that the division is 55-45 in terms of commercial values, the residential values, this impacts business as well. And so when you start talking about that kind of call, it makes no sense at $4.80. My staff, I don't smoke, but my staff said that cigarettes, average retail cost on cigarettes is $5.78 with an excise tax of about $1.41. So we're going to decrease our taxes less than a package of cigarettes. All I'm saying to you, it makes no sense. And it's, it's not our problem that the values have gone up, but to say somehow that, our other partners that we're talking to those same partners. And nobody's committed. Nobody's committed. And I'd love to see the city of Dallas do it. I know DISD can't afford to do it, but I'd love to see them do it. But at the, nobody's committed. We talk to council people, they're not committed. So why are we out in front of this parade, drum majoring, talking about $4.80 for 866,000 parcels, which will help us a long way, only about $4 million, but a long ways in where we're trying to go. So that's my position. I'm sticking to it.
Commissioner Control, do you want to
Mine's sort of along the lines of the judges. I mean, since I've got a second Republican vote here, so I'm going to let him lay out his deal, and maybe we can work this thing together.
You want to go first? You want to go second?
I'll go second.
Let me say this, Commissioner Price, I appreciate everything that you've said. What I'm trying to achieve is the beginning of a discussion. You've laid out very well the arguments as to why the government might not want to consider lowering taxes. And I appreciate that very much. I sent y'all this material. I sent you some material. I put it on a PowerPoint this morning, but I sent this material to you last week, and and I don't have it on the PowerPoint, and it came out really lousy when I tried to print it off the computer. But I had them print out what I tried to send you, the main parts of what I sent you yesterday, because that website is clunky and hard to see. But this is what I want to, here, if you'll pass two of those down. This is what I want us to focus on today. I hear what you're saying. Can you throw up that PowerPoint? Okay, so this is information that we're aware of from public sources. What this shows is a median wage growth, and these numbers lag. The next number comes out in July. This is the federal government does this for us. This is the median wage growth of middle-class families. It excludes people who make, I believe, over $85,000, and I think it excludes people who make under $36,000. What we're seeing for those middle-class families here, and this is in Dallas County, is you're seeing over a 5-year period, I beg your pardon, you're seeing a cumulative, that is a total 4.07% wage growth. So a person making $10 an hour in 2010 is seeing a growth of a little over 4% of his $10 an hour salary over a 5-year period. Not each year, but over the 5-year period. We're also seeing, if we go to the next slide, which this is good news, we're seeing a decrease in employment. We have a pretty low unemployment rate of 3.5%. Not so much in certain neighborhoods, and a lot of the jobs are not high-paying jobs, but that's good news. And these logistics centers and State Farm and Toyota and folks keep moving to the area, and it's putting a real crunch on our housing market. So next slide, and I see there's a Dallas Morning News reporter, actually the reporter who is the main writer of the story. So thank you for your great graphics and work, because I'm basically stealing liberally from it today. This is straight out of the Dallas Morning News online. And what we're looking at is the median price of a middle-class home in Dallas County increased in value by 11.2% from 2015 to 2016. And if you look, as it says, that's far more than the typical change in any other price category. Now, this is unusual. When we see these large growths in the past, or if we go back, over the 40 years, sometimes it's commercial property, sometimes Las Colinas is being built and that's exploding things, or a big plant is coming online, or hot markets like Uptown are rising in value. $100,000 to a $249,000 home, that's where a lot of middle-class families live. And look at those numbers. Although the number on there is 8.26%, when we factor in other variables, go into the next page, here's what their analysis found. If you're under $100,000, you're looking at present valuations, you're looking at a 10% increase. If you're at 100 to 250, it's 12. And it keeps ratcheting down. It's still very high, but when you get to those $1 million homes, it's 6.7. Now, these next slides, though, really illustrate in our districts why this is something to look at. Well, next slide, I forgot about this slide. When we go out to our suburbs, when we go out to DeSoto, and we go out to suburbs like that, what we see is if the house is over $500,000, in many of those suburbs, we've seen virtually no or no increase in values of the house. And across all suburbs, we've seen about a 3% increase in the home values. But when we go to those same suburbs and we look at homes between $100,000 and $250,000, where people under 65 are raising their families, we're seeing a rise of 10%. Now, that's, again, middle class is rising faster out there, too, than any other area. Before we get to, or you can be on that slide, the document that I gave out to you, I think, is probably something to talk about now, because before, we're talking a lot about home owners and home value, but as many of you may know, a report came out last week from the National Low Income Housing Coalition. And what it found is that 48% of the people who live in Dallas County are actually renters. But the important thing to remember about that is when everyone up here is a homeowner, when our homes go up, our taxes may go up, but the value of our greatest asset goes up. If I'm a renter, it's a double whammy, because my rent goes up, the landlord passes the rent on to me, but I don't own the apartment or the home, and so I don't get any value increase in that asset. And so doing this not only helps middle-class homeowners, but it helps middle-class families who find themselves, and below, families who find themselves renting houses and apartments who are in that 48%. This is homes $0 to $100,000. If the dot is red, it's above a 10% increase. We have not typically seen that sort of a diffuse explosion of increases in that lowest price strata of housing stock. If it's orange, it's 5 to 10. And these are folks, of course, the smaller a house as a cohort, this wouldn't include every human being who lives in a house, but as a cohort, those are the people, with each strata, who have less disposable income to spend on unexpected bumps like a big increase in their taxes. Going to the next slide, you see it continues to be a diffuse red and orange dots all across our suburbs particularly, and throughout areas of Dallas. We go to the next slide. Now we're getting into the price of your homes. Much smaller group of increases, still some significant increases. As we go up a little higher, these increases are shrinking in percentage, and there's a lot fewer of those increases. And finally, when we get to the million-plus homes, very few of those that saw those type of increases. There are million-plus homes, for instance, in Oak Cliff, and in all of our most of our suburbs have at least 1 or 2 million-plus properties. It may be a house with farmland, etc.
And the average age of those individuals are the reason we got hit for $9 million on the tax freeze.
Right. So remember that the good news, as Commissioner Price is pointing out, bad news also. Good news for them, bad news for anyone under 65. Nothing we can do about that this year. But the predecessor court in 2007 froze people over 65. So a person over 65, if they see a 20% increase in their home value, they're going to pay the same taxes as last year. A single mom that sees a 10% increase in her taxes is going to feel that and is going to be choosing between which necessities to cut. I want to point out these renter figures that I sent to the court yesterday.
And Judge, I appreciate all this, and I agree with you. It's 29 cents a month on the county side.
I will get to that, I promise. And
$2 a year.
with those renter numbers, currently a single mom who's raising kids in a second bedroom, in a two-bedroom apartment, she needs to make $18.96 an hour for her to afford that apartment. On the scale of 30% of her income goes towards her rent, which financial planners and the National Low Income Housing Coalition tell us is about as much as she can afford to pay, because she has other necessities that she needs to pay. In order to do that presently, a person who is making minimum wage would have to work 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, to afford the average two-bedroom apartment currently in Dallas County. We would be naive to think that if we take above what we budgeted for because of these property values, and these property owners who are renting to others pay a higher tax bill, that they will just take a loss on that and won't raise rents. So going to our next slide, this is my proposal, and this is what I'm asking for. I'm asking, and this is my proposal, I'm open to other proposals, and I'm open to, this is why I wanted to have a discussion. I'm glad we're having this. I'm asking Dallas County and each taxing entity to consider lowering their respective rate to capture only revenue equal to the tax revenue projected by the taxing entity, in our case, of course, us, before the unexpectedly high appraisal rates were released 2 weeks ago. Now, I guess that would now be 3 weeks ago. So on Sunday, we were laboring under the impression that the increase in property values would be 7.5%. On Monday, we got information from the appraisal district that the preliminary evaluations were 12.2%. On Sunday, we were able to fund everything in our budget projected, including a 5% raise for our employees. On Monday, I understand that people began to think we're getting extra money, where can we spend it? And there are always places to spend money. But I'm asking that we go back from 12.2% with our, or from whatever that number is in July when the contests are done, back to what Ryan had projected, and this court was working to fully fund a budget on the day before they got that information. And the rest of it kind of speaks for itself. We saw folks are not getting huge raises, particularly the middle class. All we have to do is turn on our TV and look at this presidential campaign and the evening news to see the squeeze in a variety of ways on the middle class. So you talk about, well, and I appreciate the discussion. You talk about, well, the county already has a low tax rate. I agree. The county has a freeze on seniors that negatively impacts working families. I agree. The county runs its business well and has a AAA bond rating. I agree. The county doing this alone would not be as great of an impact as others doing it together, and I agree.
But Judge, look, first of all, this 12.2% increase number is not fine. Is it, what is it, July 25th?
Right around July 25th, we'll get the number.
Okay,
And
so.
we expect it to be after all
The projections that I've been using is about 8.91%.
Okay.
He's got 8.9, I've seen 10. Those are guesses.
But Judge, I mean, that's what, that goes at disingenuous. You're saying 12%. And what I basically said, even if you take our 7.5%, I used your 12%. It's still $4.80 or 29 cents a month if I use that. But he's got an 8.9, and then, like I said, we still got protests going on.
Yeah. And I hope the protests bring us down to a lower number. If that lower number is 8.9 or 11.5 or 10.1 or whatever it is, my request would be that we look to bring the effective rate down so that we're capturing 7.5 and not that higher number.
Excuse me? Existing rate.
Yeah, existing.
Yeah, I'm sorry, existing tax rate down, so that we're capturing 7.5. So, and what I'll do, since you've got these questions about numbers, and no one shared those with me before this morning, but that's fine. That's absolutely
I'm
fine.
not sure what numbers. I'm just saying the protests are going on till July 25th.
So what I'll do, and I'd ask for staff's help on this, I want to look at if we took our number down, if everyone, well, just to make it simple, the City of Dallas is looking at a different number, schools looking at a different number, but if it all averages out to 7.5. If we took our number down to 7.5 from the current 12.2, what would that savings be on each housing strata? Okay. And then if you want to use your 8.9 number, if you want to guess at that number, or 10, or any other number. But for now, I can only use the numbers that I have. The only two hard numbers that I have is what it is now, which is 12.2. But I agree that will shrink as protests happen. And the hard number that Ryan gave us, which is that we can fully fund our budget and provide these unprecedented 5% structure raises at 7.5% growth, which is the number that I have in there. So
But Judge, again, you're just dealing with the number. First of all, there's about 23,000 protests a year. But does this number, even with the 480, doesn't it include commercial?
Yes.
Okay.
This is an overall tax rate.
This is overall.
tax rate.
So business, personal property, it's got all of it.
Yeah, it's got everything. So that's what I'm saying,
So
Judge.
the growth in commercial.
But you keep talking. Wait. Only reason I'm saying anything about it because you keep saying, these poor single mothers. Judge. At the end of the day, there are people out there who can afford to pay the $4.80 or the 29 cents. We're not the issue. I would love to see again the City of Dallas and or the school district and everybody. I'd love to see them. And I know Parkland cannot afford it. Parkland can't even come close to affording it.
I believe Parkland, will be able to afford going to 7.5 cents because Parkland had found a way to fully fund their budget on the day before and in the months before this windfall occurred. They had a plan to balance their budget.
But remember, they were, if you just a few months ago, they were 30 million, they were scrambling. I mean, Parkland.
And they balanced it.
Well, they did a lot of cutting. And I'm not so sure whether there's still an opinion, Dr. Garner. I won't get into y'all's business, but I'm watching your budget. And it's a matter of opinion as to whether or not they really balanced. They did some cutting. But, my problem is, you got a lot of new construction, and this year,
New construction is 1.79% of the increase according to.
We got $5 billion in new, that's right, in new construction.
According to Ken Nolan, of the 12.2%, new construction makes up 1.79%. See, that's one of the things I wanted to look at, because if this were 8% new construction and we needed services for all those new constructions, I probably wouldn't be proposing this. But this is falling right on top of middle class and below families, and that's why I'm proposing it.
$94.80, but anyway.
Well, and I will bring back those numbers for you.
I'd love to weigh in on this. And I appreciate you going in the right direction, just a little bit further, and we might have something. So we got to celebrate Dallas County in the financial position that we're in, because if you look at, since we went on the pay-as-you-go plan, our tax rate would have been 1.9 cents, not percent, 1.9 cents higher to be able to support all that we've done since 2000. And we haven't passed that along to the taxpayer, so we ought to be celebrating that.
And 1.9 cents equal.
1 cent is about 13 or 14 million. About $14 million a penny. So basically 2 cents. So you're talking
$25 million, and then let's kind of throw in the tax freeze.
So $28 million. So, and let me say, we do this, I've been doing the budget, I've been looking at the budget for 19 years, we're on 20 years. Ryan and whoever the budget officer is, they always look at the preliminary numbers. They know there's going to be fall off. I think last year we were at 10 point something, and the fall off was down to 7%, somewhere close to that. And we're going to have that same fall off, and that's what you're projecting this year. So, and that's where the 8.91%. So I just kind of did a model. You know, we can talk about this all day long, but the bottom line is, what dollar amounts are we talking about? I'm going to do it a little bit different way than what you did, Commissioner. I did it very simple. Okay, these are the values that I'm using: 100, 200, 500, and a million. That's after the homestead exemption. Okay, after homestead exemption. So you're looking at the home values with the homestead exemptions, and this is on top of what somebody, the taxes that I'm going to be talking about are on top of what somebody is already paying. Okay, so this would be the additional amount. So if you take, I have three rates here. The first rate is the existing rate, and that is the 24.31, and that's what we're currently at in Dallas County, and a growth of 8.91, and I'm using that same growth rate for all three options. The second one is the judge's rate at 7.5%. So if you figure what the tax rate would be in order to capture that 7.5, it would be
using the 8.91 that I don't necessarily agree with that, but using that number, right?
Exactly.
Right. Okay.
And I agree with you. It could come in at 7.9, or it could be
10 or
9.6. I mean,
right.
Yes, but using what we have and making it apples to apples, that's what I'm trying to do here. Then you have my rate, which is the effective rate, which would be 22.5 cents. And the effective rate, all that the effective rate is what amount of revenue did you generate from property taxes last year? What would you have to lower that to get the same amount of property taxes for this year, this coming year? And so you lower that rate down, and that's the effective rate, and that's where you start. And that's why if you go above that effective rate, you have to say in open court that we're effectively raising taxes if you're above that effective rate. Mm-hmm. So if you take 22.5, 24, and 24.31, and you look at a $100,000 house, using the existing rate, they're going to pay an extra $21.66. Under the judge's idea, they're going to pay $18.23, which is a $3.43 a year difference. Okay? If you look at the effective rate, and usually that should be zero, and that's what everybody thinks, but I won't get into the complications of it being commercial property, business personal property, all of that. So you have to wrap that into the residential also. So it doesn't quite come out to be zero, but it's close. I mean, 195 is pretty close over a year. So the difference is $19.71. And it's the same thing as you go down through the deal. Now, if you go to the next slide, because the unique thing about Dallas County, we did adopt the senior citizens tax freeze for Dallas County. But we were advised by legal counsel that because Parkland Hospital was not included in the language, the constitutional language, in order to do the tax freeze, that we couldn't pass that for the hospital. Right. So therefore, there is no tax freeze here. So senior citizens, they're going to get the full brunt of any type of tax increase. They don't have that cap that seniors do on the county side. So if you look at their rate of 28.6 cents, and then the judge's rate of 28.2 cents, and then the effective rate of 26.79, and remember we're going to have the same amount of revenue that we did last time, and then it shows you a taxpayer will be paying an additional 25.48 cents a year for $100,000, $50 for $200,000, $127 for $500,000. Under the judge's rate, you would save the taxpayer $4.03 a year, $8 under a $200,000 house. Under my rate, the effective rate, you'd save $19.63, $39.27, $83.16. So that's sort of where I'm at, and I just wanted to point those two things out, and I think that's a starting point. We ought to look at the effective rate, and then the effective rate plus new construction. Now, the dollar amount, instead of talking percentages, I want to talk dollar amount, and that is for our current tax rate, new construction, new dollars would be $9.3 million. For the judge's rate, it would be $8.65. I'm sorry, 9.2 million. So it'd be $100,000 less. Under my effective rate, it'd be 8.64 million for new construction. So I would say the effective rate plus new construction to get us where we need to go. And I know that some people aren't happy with that, but just that's my 2 cents. And, well, let me point this out too. In 2008, property values started dropping. We hit a high point in 2009. We were at $172 billion valuation value. In 15, we came back because everybody remembers it dipped, and this court kept our tax rate below the effective rate when those property values dropped. We didn't bump it up to the effective rate like other jurisdictions did. We kept it under that effective rate, which we certainly could have done with no problem. But since in 2015, we went up to $175 billion. 16, we went to 188, and now, this year, we're sitting at $205 billion. So there's some room to do some things.
Thus far.
Thus far. That's right. We won't know till July.
What, July 25th?
Commissioner Daniel, any comment?
I've read lots of economics and financial projections and even past econometrics. And so do understand what we're talking about here. I do have a couple of additional questions, though. And one of those may be that we do not live in a bubble. We live in a state of Texas that, for a number of legislative sessions, has targeted our appraisal rates and our taxing rates, revenue caps. So what is going to be the impact of this coming up legislative session? Is it going to then be that double whammy that's already been talked about a little bit on all of our property owners in the state?
And Judge, I think the premise of the idea was a good idea, okay? If everybody does their part. The problem is, like Commissioner Price eloquently is I don't think at this point all the partners can or can afford to do what you're proposing. So I did send you colleagues some information, and I have here some more. I hope can you pass them around, Commissioner? Making taxation equal and uniform again. And Judge, I hear what you're saying, how important this is for middle-class families. But, as I always say, it's not only about the problem, it's how you find a solution that actually works. And what I'm trying to say is, like we already discussed this when we sent our recommendations to the Senate, is the biggest part of any tax bills is ISD. Any of the ISDs in Dallas County. If the legislatures fund education at the level that they should fund it, those taxes will come down. Then number 2, exceptions. The state, right now, Dallas County has $56.2 billion in exceptions. If half of that, if only 1% of that was reduced, our taxpayers could have around $900 in their wallets. Now we're talking. And let me be very clear, guys. I'm not saying taking out all those exemptions. I'm just saying revise those exemptions. $56.2 billion? That's a lot of money.
Did you hear me challenge Mr. Nolan on that?
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Well, that's third. Option, of course, is, let's ask the state to really fund their responsibilities. We just saw right now, this morning, one of the issues about indigent defense. 73%, right, Commissioner Daniel, increase. That's $60 million from 16 to 28 today. And the state is only funding 7% of that bill. Third, we have talked about it many times around here. They need to fund their responsibility. The fourth, is pushing down on funded mandates, and we know what those are. Yeah, so, they need to pay their part, and then, of course, you have heard me talk about this many times. Sales price reporting, disclosing sales price. And I'm not only talking about commercials, which is what this article talks about. The difference on what some of the big corporations, including Whole Foods, are doing out there. They're exempting big portions of their taxes. That's not fair. What happens when they do that? We, the middle class taxpayers, pick up the bill. So, Judge, the solution is not only $4.15. It's all of us working together. It's all of us going to the legislature. The numbers are here. We see that Dallas County is in a region that is the third fastest growing in the United States. If we start going backwards, no economic development, no money, like Commissioner Price said, for basic services, that we provide are important for us. IT, public works, mental challenges, with the jail, maintenance. We're talking about basic services.
And each time we've raised taxes, it's been primarily because of the jail.
This is the biggest part of our budget.
Well, and we redid that jail, was it 193 or 198 million that we spent without having to raise taxes?
That's exactly.
Just barely. But let me say this also. We have something on the agenda this morning as well as this afternoon, and it probably pulled to this afternoon. Assuming we move forward with this on a $200 million basically building project, the taxpayers will not see any of that on their tax bill because of the way that we have structured our finances here in Dallas County. So there'll be no debt service on that $200 million.
But the Commissioner, that's what I continue to say. In 1999, we were forward-looking enough to do that. This court has been forward enough looking to embrace that. Why all of this, again, bless you, out in front of the parade now. And again, had we not had what I consider to be some good elected officials, like a county clerk, John Warren, and like tax assessor, John Ames, with regards to, there have been a number of projects for 4 years. They gave us $30 million out of funds that the legislature gives them. They could have done other things. They have helped us. And so that's what I'm saying. For us to talk at this point, now, like I said, if this was a city, I'd probably, be down there with, drum majoring with you. But now, come on, $4, it makes a difference on our side of the aisle. And it won't, with those individuals that you're champion for, at $4.80, that pack of cigarettes won't make a difference. And
I wanted to finish a little bit what I was
Yes,
saying
she has
too.
another
But
question,
part of it
another
was
comment.
that I'm one of those middle-class homeowners with a very modest home, so that I feel the pain that you are talking about and do not disagree with the sentiments that you're expressing. But I also, as a very modest homeowner, look at not only today, but have to take a more long-term look at my own budget and attempt to project what are my responsibilities today, but what's going to be the impact later on. And that's why I think we do have to recognize that, first of all, we are not by ourselves in Dallas County. Second of all, we do have the second smallest amount of taxes collected, I think, of all the entities. I think, Mr. Ames, is that correct?
Dallas County Schools.
That Dallas County Schools they collect a smaller percentage of the total tax bill.
Most for Dallas ISD, and then Dallas County falls on the bottom here.
Right. But then I also have to take a look at, okay, so we've got the 24.3%, and what does that actually mean for me as a homeowner? If it means $30 a year, I don't sneeze at $30, but what long-term, what is the impact of all of this? And if we do not have the other partners, how does that affect what happens 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Because I am a little concerned about the bubble that we do not live in, which is the Texas legislature and their view of what our tax burden is and what our tax contributions are going to be. But then also how they play in the whole, what do we have of available funding for the services that Dallas County by statute is required to provide. So I want to take up a much longer view of this and looking at, okay, what have we done in the past? What has been that experience? But then also, what's going to be the impact in the future on us?
And I appreciate everyone's, I'm glad we're having a discussion. I hope we can continue to have these, not just at the court meetings, but as we move forward one-on-one, because we don't want to violate open meetings. Let's continue discussing these ideas. One thing I want to make clear to people, here's my thought on why us. You're talking about these numbers. The numbers that I'll bring back will be a little bit different from that, but the premise that the county portion of your taxes is substantially lower than DISD or or Irving ISD or your city taxes is true. But the county, being Dallas County, is the only entity that is a partner to every single taxing entity in Dallas County. And you're leaders, and you've got an opportunity to lead. And when we go from 12.2 or whatever that goes to, down to either 7.5 or 1.79 or some number in between there, the effect of that is to chop that increase with my number by 40%, with Commissioner Cantrell's number, effectively down to near zero, or some number that we could work on in the middle. The question on what is the impact in the legislative session, I think clearly if we don't do something about this, it will be the highest increase in property tax burden in the history of Dallas County, both in percent and in dollars.
Excuse me?
Yeah, for 1 year, we haven't seen property burdens go up beyond 10% in a year. We've seen, I think, am I right, Ryan? We've seen some 9 years, but we haven't seen some 10 years.
It's not true. Yeah,
We can quibble whether in 1960 or something it went up 12%.
No.
But at any rate, my point is,
When did they go? That's not true.
In FY08, the highest increase that we've seen on a certified over certified was a 9.79%.
9.7. Okay.
And that's what we're
So
expecting it to
We're currently at 12, and if we stay above 10,
We're not
we'll be
at
high.
12, Judge. You keep saying that. That is not the case. We still have, you keep using that. You talk about artificial. That's what I'm saying. Don't keep
I can
saying
only use the numbers that we have right now. If the numbers ratchet down to 8.9 or 10, we'll use those numbers. I'm not disagreeing with you.
I understand, but again, you keep.
It can be misleading.
It is misleading. What do you mean can be? It
Because
is misleading.
If you look at, because our budget director goes back and pulls historical data and can tell you basically, and it's probably going to go down even further because historically, more people are appealing this year than any other time.
23,000.
So
Use any number that you like. There's no reason to disagree with that because we'll have the actual number in July.
The end of July. But my point
I'm
is.
choosing to use the only number that's out there now. If you want to use a different number, use 8 or 9 or 10 or 8 point whatever he said that his guess was. Use any number you like, but the point is okay, let's use 8.9 just for a second. That's your number, right? At 8.9, you would have 1 year that was higher, okay? And I think the answer of what the legislature would do is if we can't come together and give back the windfall, the legislature likely can come back and take away the local control and do it for us. I agree with Dr. Garcia that there are so many things the legislature could do that would take the burden off of the middle class in changes in unfunded mandates, in disclosures. I wish that we could get them to do that. What we have the power to do is in setting our tax rate to work together and see what we can do. And then the hope is, it was mentioned that none of our partners, people were talking to our partners. Let me tell you the partners that I've talked to, and I think they've been reported in the news media too. Mike Rawlings, who is the mayor of the city of Dallas, where 1.2 million of our citizens live, favors tax relief. The majority of...
What the hell does that mean?
Effective rate, I hope.
Well, that's all, I'm willing I'm not stuck at 7.9, and I don't think you're stuck at 1.79. I think what he and I are saying is, let's work together.
Take it down, let's do smaller government, more efficient government.
And he may have some talking points that are different than my talking points, but the point is, I think we're aligned in trying to lower the tax rate this year. Mike Rawlings and several members of the city council, some of our CEO level people at taxing entities that are non-elected, that have talked to their boards. But if we all go down from that, whatever that number is, that is currently 12.2, and we'll lower to 7.5, then the effect, according to Ryan, on a $149,000 house is about $160. Oh, no, I'm sorry, that's from 8.91. That's from his lower number down to 7.9. It's $160.
It can't be.
No. Isn't that right, Ryan?
Cannot be.
No. Did I get that wrong? Did I read that wrong?
Well, let's just take the $200,000.
Now, this is including our partners. Well, until the county began talking about this, no one was talking about
And they
tax relief.
still not. Nobody's talking but you.
Well,
Nobody else is talking. We're talking to people as well.
Well-
And you told me the other day, you said school board, but I said something. He said, there's no way in hell they're going to be able to do that, Judge.
well, people are, no one is committing, people are looking at it. But as you can read Mayor Rawlings, you can call him on the phone and ask him his thoughts. Or you can, well, he'll be back in a couple of days.
Wedding anniversary, by the way.
And also, you can read his comments on the need for middle-class tax relief in the Dallas Morning News.
Okay, I put it on. I'm
Comments,
finished.
no
Mayor
commitment.
McCowan, good to see you. Congratulations.
See you, Mayor. Congratulations to the new mayor of DeSoto.
I'm not going to put you on the spot. But it's good to see you. When we are talking.
So you're not going to put her on the spot?
No, no way. But I'm talking to her and her city manager. I understand.
Again, Judge, it's good that we're talking, there's no commitments. And I think that you wanted to hear from your colleagues, we wish you would have asked us before.
Well, I'm trying my very best to communicate with you. I've called you, sent you emails. I'll do my, let me know if there's a better way to communicate, because I really want us to have these discussions, and I understand the reluctance when an entity is getting money to give that money back, and I'm not critical of anyone.
Judge, that's not the case. That is
I know we have needs that need to be funded.
This county, again, has been extremely frugal with regards to its fiduciary responsibility as we move forward. And so that's not the case. And as I said, the only time in 30 years we've ever raised taxes is when we've been dealing with that jail over there. And the state has given us that responsibility. And so that's not true. We've been frugal in every respect here. And as a result, we've had a workforce that has, even by our commission study, says, look where we are on the market. So it's even not about raises. It's not about that. It's about infrastructure. It's about IT. As Commissioner Garcia has come on and talked about, buildings, maintenance, it's come on, we've delayed all of that. And as I said, I'm going back with other elected officials who have basically, managed to assist us. We've been able to continue to save and not play games that, we have not, really, other than the effective rate, raised the dadgum taxes. So, that's all we're saying. It's a $4 and something.
Well, I agree. We've got a great workforce, and again, under my plan, we fund every single thing that we asked that the workforce and the budget office and the commissioners asked for before the new rates came out.
And the difference is 1.7%, but anyway.
Can
go ahead.
I ask just one question? I never saw a budget from Parkland that they did the same thing that we were doing. They were basing it on 7.5%. Have they prepared a budget with that? Does somebody know that?
Parkland's
I haven't seen
budget
it.
takes forever to prepare, but they work off the same numbers that Ryan, the numbers that they work off of in doing that are the numbers given to them by us.
Where did Dr.
Historically, they do contact me and ask what my projections are, but they do then do their own projections. And so
And have you
they're-
seen?
I have not seen anything as it relates to what they were.
I just thought maybe it was out and I haven't seen it. Okay.
Let's move on.
Okay, yeah, that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
And then that takes us to our consent agenda.
Second.
Any discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries unanimously. None opposed.
Okay. Got it.
We'll now consider court order, wait a second, yeah. That's, yeah. K1 through 44 with addendums 45, 46, 47, 48, and 49. We're pulling 7, 38.
Wait,
Hold on,
hold on a second.
I'm sorry.
Pulling what?
7.
Okay,
Ready?
ready.
Pulling 7, 38, 43, 44 for this afternoon session. And I'm going to pull 19 under our rules for 2 weeks. This is our strategic plan change on 19,
For how many weeks are you going to pull it off?
until our next meeting.
Another 2 weeks, on top of the 3.
Well,
Which item did you say?
19. You're talking about the administrative.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, the
sounds
other
good.
one's already been pulled, can't pull it
Okay,
again.
for this afternoon.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Thank you.
those are going to the afternoon. Yeah, okay. So is there a motion on those?
Judge, we pulled 7, 13, 19,
No, I don't think, was 13 on there?
13 wasn't pulled.
13 is not pulled.
No, let me read them. 7.
It's an exception,
Exception.
so I went ahead,
yes.
I'm voting.
I beg your pardon. 7,
13, 19, 38, 43,
What's 19?
and 44.
13.
19. Somebody pulled 19.
You pulled 19.
Yeah, you
I
pulled
19.
19. Yeah, you don't want to pull
Yeah.
19.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, we got them all?
So I move court orders 1 through 48, excluding court orders 7, 13, 38, 43, and 44.
Second.
And, okay.
Judge and Commissioners, on Court Order 31, I do want to clarify, it's a bid for the election poll
And
books. We will be utilizing general funds for that when that is awarded. We will be utilizing the escrow funds that the Elections Department has to do the remodeling of the facility that we purchased.
But my motion included 19,
Right.
pulling it, excluding 19.
7, 13,
19, 38, 43, and 44.
43
43,
and 44.
43?
and 44.
Yes, ma'am.
Second.
Second.
I think you
Second.
said.
All right. Any discussion on the court orders? Any discussion on the court orders? Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Any abstentions? Is there, oh, that's right, yeah, never mind. Motion carries unanimously.
Court order 13 is before us. I move it.
Second.
All right. Any discussion on court order 13? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
All right. Motion carries 4-1.
Hold on.
Okay, motion.
It's coming.
I made the motion.
It's an abstention, and I am sorry, I haven't voted for any.
And it passed 4-1 with Commissioner,
Okay, if everyone will vote,
sorry.
I vote for you.
All right, I think that took us through those. All right, we have 5 public speakers. Will the bailiff please read the rules of decorum for our public speakers?
All Commissioner Court attendees are hereby advised that this meeting is conducted in accordance with the provisions of Dallas County Code Section 74-71. Visitors and registered speakers are to preserve order and decorum at all times. Personal, profane, or slanderous remarks are not appropriate and will not be allowed at any time during this public meeting. Any and all applause is to be kept brief and observant to time constraints. Listed and/or registered speakers may be removed and are subject to penalties provided in the state of Texas Penal Code, sections 38.13, 22.01, and 42.05. Registered individual speakers are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes, and the maximum discussion on any one topic is limited to 30 minutes.
And our first speaker today is Ms. Dolores Phillips. Good morning.
Thank you, Honorable Jenkins and Commissioners. My name is Dolores Phillips. Address is going to be 1050 North Highway 360, Apartment D, 3041, Grand Prairie, Texas, 75050. Honorable Jenkins, I will testify to this in the court of law under sworn oath that this is by far, as of now, the most broad, motor-high cover-up in America's history. And I'm talking about throughout America. It's documented. OCR, EEOC, Federal Court, United States Department of Justice, Federal Bureau of Investigation. I sent documents to even the medias. And the only reason that I continue to be thrown up under the bus is that it was deceptively brilliant to recruit the public to be a part of the massive cover-up while pushing their own sinister agendas. I stand before you, this is strictly business. I will not, never, ever in this lifetime allow anyone to unlawfully violate me in silence. The cover-up escalated, extended into the Grand Oaks incident. When I found out I could speak before the mayor, it was somebody that was at a protest who had went through the same thing of enduring injustices and being bullied to be silent. Every time that I stood before the mayor, I seen him getting angry. So when he instructed the meeting of October 25th, 2013, and I went, Corporal Cotner said that he had spoke with the mayor the morning of, the same morning before I got there. I saw anger, I saw rage within Corporal Earl Cotner. That's my personal experience. What I'm humbly trying to share with you is that it's a massive cover-up. The reason they took me to Green Oaks was to intercept court documents that were going to be mailed that day. These connections and networks did not just start with me. This is long on. This is a pattern of minorities being thrown under the bus, and they're thrown under the bus by the assistance of other minorities and women. This is by far the greatest exploitation and betrayal of humanity in America's history. So for those who are listening low or high, I never was afraid of the repercussions of Jim Crow South, nor will I ever be. I will continue to speak, and I ask you to figure out why these connections infiltrated the schools and deprived me of a fine equal education for speaking of the moral corruption. And it is a massive cover-up with very politicians with clout that's doing the unthinkable. When I say blacklisted from then to now, you haven't seen the blacklisting that I am doing in movies or in books, and I'm going to humbly continue to speak. And as far as this other madness, covering up corruption, I'm open to females. That is considered homosexuality. That is an abominable sin to me. I don't do but Honorable Jenkins, this is what I want to share with you. No one can force you to do anything in America. That's considered rape all day long. I'm not homosexual.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips.
Thank you.
All right, and our next speaker is Richard Sheridan.
Yes, good morning. Richard Sheridan, 1562 Harris Court, Dallas, Texas. Let me first honor Muhammad Ali. Truly, he was the greatest at what he did, and he will be sorely missed. I'm here to speak about 666, the Rich Sheridan 666 graffiti case. Thomas Paine once said during our first American Revolution, and certainly we were in another American Revolution, these are the times of trial men's souls and women's souls, and many souls are being sorely tried today. The mark of the beast was graffitied on 13 locations in Dallas associated with the gay community. This was a biblical warning by Richard P. Sheridan, a 13-year well-known Dallas activist, that the gays are violating God's laws as clearly written in the Bible, and that they will be sorely punished for it. At the time of the graffiti in June 2014, gay marriage was accepted in 23 states. Today, gay marriage is accepted in all 50 states. The rabid gay LBG community, and let me just say, the majority of the gay community are mild-mannered people who don't want to get involved in all of this hateful activity. But the rabid gay community calls this hate speech, that Sheridan is a hateful man. I say not so. It's the rabid gays, the minority, that are the hateful ones in this case, hating anyone who bears down on their consciences. Our mayor says that the Dallas gay LGBT community is Dallas's best community. Now the rabid gays want transgender men and boys to be allowed to go into women's, girls' bathrooms. This is tearing our nation apart by a minority. Now the Dallas Morning News and the LGBT community are attacking Pastor Robert Jeffers about his words that come straight from the Bible, which condemn the LGBT lifestyle. They are basically saying that the Bible is no longer relevant in Dallas, which was once in the Bible Belt. I say forget about it. No, let's not forget about it. It's that important. Punishment, 3 days in jail, 0 votes. There were people before this court last June complaining about vote fraud. $2,000 in restitution, 2-year minimum probation, could be many years since I'm on a very limited income. 120 hours community service, which I'm very much enjoying. Report to probation officer. No alcohol use. I'm an Irishman. No alcohol use. That's a little humor there. In summary, the message from the Dallas District Attorney, which serves the gay community, is don't mess with the gay LGBT community or you will be sorely punished. I was honored to receive a letter from Dan Patrick commending me for my activities and saying that he will continue to work on the defense of traditional marriage and protecting the First Amendment right of free speech. And then I received a card from Robert Jeffers, who was under attack, again thanking me for his support. God bless and save America, and again, thank you, Muhammad Ali. You're in a better place now.
Thank you. All right, our next public speaker is Miss Brenda Blair. Miss Brenda Blair, Brenda Blair. All right. The next public speaker is Mr. William Hopkins.
My name is William Hopkins. Judge Dickey, you went over to Lisa Blue and Dorothy Bud and Russell Bud. You took Hillary Clinton. She's running for president. So you went over to Lisa Blue and Dorothy Bud and Russell Bud, I guess probably for a fundraiser. Okay. In 1997, I went to the FBI in the West End, and I talked to a chief. He was the head of the FBI. He was James Adams and Michael Lubes. And I had documents showing them where Fred Byron, Lisa Blue, and Russell Bud and Dorothy Bud had the city sued. You got the lawsuit. You had the lawsuit where the city sued, the city and the state sued the RSR lead plant for the health and the conditions of the people in West Dallas. I gave you the lawsuit. You had the lawsuit when you and Merrill Rollins talked to Obama, President Obama. You had the lawsuit then. You could have helped the blacks then. We're still dying. People still dying. It was dying when I gave you the lawsuit. And now you went to the same people house with Lisa Blue, Dorothy Bud, and Russell Bud. You and Miss Clinton went over there. In 1997, when I went to the FBI, I showed them where Russell Bud, Lisa Blue, Dorothy Bud had went to the boys club and they got the money. The city got the money for the lid. So what Russell Bud and And Fred Byron, the Fred Byron law firm, they went to the city and told them, well, if you don't tell nobody, we can have the people to come to the Boys Club in West Dallas and sneak them the money and don't tell nobody, don't tell the media, and that way y'all don't have to pay all of them blacks in West Dallas. So the city went along with it. Mind you that the state sued too, but Steve Woolen was a part of the Fred Byron and Bud law firm. So when the state sued, it was by him being a part of that law firm, everybody was in together with the corruption. So the FBI, they didn't do nothing. James Adams, he was the head of the FBI, and Michael Lewis Jr. when I showed the papers, and I also showed them where they found the money through Merrill Lynch. Fred Byron, Russell Bud, Dorothy Bud, and Lisa Blue found the money through Merrill Lynch, and they did all this in the Boys Club in '85. And the commissioner there, when they did it in '85, the preacher, Reverend Spears and John Wiley Price in '85 at the Boys Club to sneak the money. So they come back in '95, they go to a hotel on Mockingbird, across the street from the Jack in the Box. They had the people coming there again, they already know what to do, sneak them the money, and this was in '95. Reverend Conley and the rest of the preachers had them sneak in there in the hotel and sneak them the money again. All this here is because Fred Byron, Russell Bud, Lisa Blue, and Dorothy Bud was paying for everything. And now you went with Hillary Clinton to Russell Bud and Dorothy Bud and Lisa Blue house to get another fundraiser, and I'm here to find out it was that for, not to say nothing about the people that's dying in West Dallas.
You're out of time. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
And our last speaker is Mr. Jeff Thibault. Is it Thibault? Did I say that right?
Thibault is the correct pronunciation.
I think I got it right the first time. Sorry.
Thank you, Judge Dinkins. Members of the Commissioners Court, I'm here to talk about homelessness. It's a complicated issue, so you can't really get into the kind of discussion that you would need in a 3-minute period, but suffice to say, I have been homeless myself. Yes, I'm a college graduate, worked all my life, but I was homeless. But for the grace of God, any one of you could be as well. Most Americans are not good at saving money, and when we have financial problems, sometimes homelessness results. Fortunately, I fought my way back. I'm now living in the Oaklawn area and semi-retired and working, and I love the success stories that you don't always hear about in the paper. But we have a homeless issue that is not being addressed as it should be. We have a commission that's been created by the mayor. Commissioners, your representative, Mr. William Stretcher, I met with him last week. Intelligent man, he represents you well. However, I have some concerns about the direction that the commission is taking. Unless we look at meaningful reform with homelessness, we're going to continue to have more tent cities. And by meaningful reform, I mean it has to be, several issues have to be confronted. One is the poor operation of many of the shelters in this county. There's a lack of consistency on operating policies and procedures. There's no oversight of many of the shelters that are run by private boards. And there is just a general disrespect for the residents of these shelters. There's people that work in these shelters that have no business being there, and they need to be taken out of those shelters, dismissed. I stay at both the Salvation Army facility on Harry Hines and also at Dallas Light, so I'm speaking from first-hand knowledge. What's the solution long-term? Reform of the shelters and the creation of a permanent commission appointed by members of the Commissioners Court and the city that would have oversight authority not only over all the shelters, but also over administration of the homeless issue. Now these shelters, this commission could gather information on the performance of the shelters, report back to the council and the Commissioners Court on a regular basis. There also could be a fundraising apparatus in this commission that could help bridge the gaps in funding that all the shelters are experiencing. But the last part of the puzzle has to do with the lack of housing. And until this county adopts an ordinance that requires every developer to set aside a portion of their housing for the homeless, low-income.
You're out of time, I'm sorry, sir.
We will not have meaningful reform.
Thank
And
you.
I ask that the commissioners keep that in mind as this issue moves forward.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. All right, and that is our final public speaker for today. The court will now adjourn for our closed session to discuss matters under Chapter 551 of the Government Code as previously posted. Any action needed from a closed session discussion will take place in a subsequent open session. We'll begin closed session in 3 or 4 minutes after a chance for everyone to go to a restroom break as we head along. We got?
Irma's going to be out.
No action necessary as per the closed session. Court stands in recess until, is it 1:30 or 2?
We have a different.
Yeah, 1:30 or 2?
1:30. 1:30.
Oh, man.
1:30, yeah, until 1:30.